Hi guys, if you've just landed on this video, it's part 3 in my review of Diaclone robot-based Grand Cross. I've previously looked at both DA95 Ground Dion and DA100 Cloud Across separately in earlier videos, and this time I'm going to cover what happens when you bring them together. Diaclone robot-based Grand Cross. One thing for me to explicitly clarify is that Diaclone robot-based Grand Cross is actually two separate sets. DA95 Ground Dion, which is the waist down, and DA100 Cloud Across, which is the torso up. The Diaclone line features some incredible engineering, as you'll see, so to make this project commercially viable, Takara Tomy split it into the two toys and released them a year apart. So to make this set, you need to purchase the two separate toys. Again, chapters are all there, so if you only want to see a particular set or part of Robot Base, then you can jump ahead. And moving forwards, I'm just going to call this guide Robot Base, rather than the full Robot Base Grand Cross, just to make it easier. I'll also do a comparison with the original Robot Base, but I'll refer to that as vintage Robot Base, so there's no ambiguity. What we've learned from interviews with the product designers and engineers is that Robot Base was conceived to be a part of this rebooted Diaclone line since its return in 2015. I first got into the line around 2020, so I haven't been along for the whole ride, but right now, in 2024, that's 8 years, which is a significant time when you think the entire original line only lasted around 5 years or so back in the 80s. The important role of Diaclone in the advent of the Transformers is well documented, but if Hasbro hadn't hijacked the line back in the early 80s, who knows what it would have evolved into and how long it could have run for. If you're interested in seeing more of the original vintage Diaclone line, please do check out the rest of my videos. I hope to have some more posted soon, sharing other highlights from that line in my collection. As I mentioned in my Ground Dion video, that was announced in September 22 and released around March 23. Then we had Cloud Across announced in June 23 and released in February 24. So it was around 18 months from announcement until shipping for the complete robot-based toy. But before we get to the big guy, I need to show you the combined alt mode. To get the so-called Mobile Fortress GX, we need to start with the standard Land Dreadnought configuration of Ground Dion and the Sky Carrier mode of Cloud Across. Take Cloud Across and sit it right on top of the main bridge of Ground Dion. Start at the back and then lower the front, and you should feel it click in place. Then the rear two stands will fold forward and the front two fold outward and up to lock Cloud Across in place. By the letter of the instruction manual, you're supposed to also lift up the runway cannon hatches, open the center hangar, and mount the Skylancer and Heli-Scout on the Cloud Across helipads, as well as the base fighters on the runway. This mode is very top heavy, and I think for me the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. I think that's what I mean, to say that I like the two more as separates rather than this combined mode. It's fun that it connects in this fashion, but the bridge of Ground Dion is overshadowed, literally and figuratively. All the crew on the stern deck are kind of hidden. It's definitely intimidating though. Okay, so enough of that. You're here to see Robot Base in all his glory. So let's start with Ground Dion and how that transforms into the legs and waist. So flip down the rear wings on the shuttle and then fold up the stern decks. I mentioned this in my Ground Dion video, but be super careful to always fold these upper deck panels down. I got confused and pushed this left one up and it significantly weakened the plastic and has made it a bit flimsy. Slightly separate the back here and raise the lift. Lift up the bridge and holding it securely, lower the back part until you can flip the lower deck platforms forwards, then click them in place. Now come to the front and lift up the runways, then angle the front toes. Continue to lower the back part until it meets the front, so essentially the front and back join to become the legs. Pull the bridge up to become the waist. Lift up the runways to close the legs. And then lift up from the knees to straighten it all up and maximize the height. Now rotate the lift down so that it's sitting vertically. And with the lower half ready to go, let's grab the locking parts that come with Cloud Across. Lift up the stern deck flaps that I said can break, and slide the L-shaped locks until you feel the center port lock in place. Then behind the knees, the larger locking parts just click in place. Finally, on the front of the knees, open the runway part a little and push the smaller locks into place. Make sure the clip part of it is at the top. Close up the runway and we're ready to confidently throw Cloud Across on top. Just like with the combined alt mode, you place it on top of the bridge, starting with the back, and then bring the front down until it clicks and locks. Secure it in place with the stands, turning them to lock. He's actually really sturdy like this. Even with a lot of the weight from Cloud Across up high and fairly far out, you can rock him and he still stands strong. Okay, so lay the large wings at the back out flat, then rotate the whole trapezoid bit with the Freezon beam cannons 90 degrees so the cannons are facing straight up. Now fold in the outer flared bits and make sure the helipads are pushed forwards before you rotate the shoulders around to point the arms down. Now you can straighten them out. To get the hands out, you can either clutch the light blue corner of the arm or grab that whole grey flare, then pull it out to open the forearm. Then in classic Masterpiece Transformer style, spin out the fist and close it all back up, then rotate the fist around. Now for the fun bit. Bring the whole head assembly as far forwards over the bridge as it'll go, then rotate it 180. If the radar ear things aren't already extended, fold them out. You can remove the cloud gunner from the back and clip it on the rear mount at the far back. Now you can flip up the head. I recommend holding up the dark blue section at the back while you rotate it back. This can be a little tight at first, and I watched a few videos to be sure I wasn't going to snap something. But it's definitely the right way to do it, so don't worry too much. As a final touch, angle the traps forward a little to get the cannons to sit nicely. And there he is. Being a huge fan of vintage toys, I quite like this rigid static pose. I also think this is how the mech would be stored when not in use, so it has that appeal. But you can spread his legs a little and give him a more natural arm position if you like. So there's a lot to take in, but it all centers on a really solid face sculpt with light pipe eyes and a lot of different detail and metallic highlights. There's already some tutorials online showing how to mod the head to fit an LED so that the eyes permanently illuminate. Speaking of the head sculpt, I'm not so sure about the bags under his eyes. He's supposed to be the youthful reimagining of the 1980 model. I'm also not sure why a robot needs sunglasses, but there's a lever just on the back that will lower some welding shades, which according to the Diaclone videos is possibly a requirement when firing the Freezon beam cannons. Although if that's the case, how could they be fired in Cloud Across modes? There's been a lot of talk and criticism about the proportions. I think maybe his shoulders are a little pronounced, but otherwise for what he is, a giant transforming robot headquarters, I don't have any issue. Speaking of shoulders, there's a subtle light pipe detail that is easily overlooked. However, it adds a huge value to his overall presence, as without them, your eyes would almost stay entirely focused on his chest and midsection, where all the action is. In terms of articulation, his waist will spin 360 as long as you move the flaps out of the way. His arms will lift slightly above horizontal, and shoulders will do a full 360, again if you move the kibble around. There's no lateral shoulder movement at all. His legs are reasonably articulated, but you have all the weight up top, so it becomes a real challenge to do anything that will sit in position. Then if you do, it's a brave person that would leave him there, as the joints aren't made to permanently support him like this. I would never leave robot base on the shelf in anything other than a straight stand, and always with those leg support pieces in place. At the same time, always have one hand on the upper half when you're posing or repositioning him, otherwise the hip ratchets will just let go. It's not their fault really. They're very solid, but the weight is just more than they can support over time. There's no ankle rotation, though they do tilt through a decent range. There's a head tilt up, but nothing down unfortunately, which is a common thread with mechs in the Diaclone line. His fists, or motivators, are a work of art, probably the best I've ever seen on a toy. Incredibly articulated fingers and thumbs, including outer fingers that splay or separate. A full 360 ratcheted wrist spin, and even this cool light piped pop-up laser gimmick. Sadly, no rocket punch, but his fists do detach using the buttons on the side. At the time of this video, there's no accessories that specifically mount there, but it's Diaclone, so probably in 3 months' time I'll realize that an entire ship somehow clips on and opens up some insane combinations. The promo material for this guy lists him at 62 centimeters tall, but including the cannons, I have him at 65 centimeters or 26.5 inches standing up straight, and a solid 5.2 kilos or 11 plus pounds. So at the 1/60th scale, he's equivalent to something like a 10 or 11 story building. Here you can see him alongside a few of the larger mechs from the Diaclone line. Funny that we used to consider Big Powered one of the big boys. And here I've shown a few of the larger toys in my collection for height and scale comparisons. Note that the Scorponok has the additional DNK Designs upgrades, so he's taller than the standard figure. So it's clear that Diaclone has finally planted its flag in the realm of Titans, all while maintaining the level of detail that is integral to what makes Diaclone Diaclone. In terms of gimmicks for the robot, you've already seen the sunglasses, the pop-up lasers in the fists. You can also use the cloud across outer thrusters as a sleeve cannon. So rotate the arm and fist until you can sit that part underneath and it becomes a support cannon. According to the literature in the photo book, they act as thrusters on the arm otherwise, helping to propel the arms and fists in melee combat. The last gimmick, and the one that's gotten the most attention, is the Freezon Beam Cannon GX, where you replace the fist with the cannon. Bear with me, there's 17 steps in the instruction manual to make this happen. So we're going to rotate the Freezon Beam Cannon up. You can do this on either side, or both if you like. Now fold away the fist and spin the whole shoulder around so his arm is pointing up. Rotate the Freezon cannon back to its original spot, then bend the arm at the elbow so that they almost touch. Now you can push the cannon towards the arm and they should click together. Slide the cannon off its mount and you can rotate it so that it extends and points down. Okay, so now bring the shoulder back around and you'll find that he's kind of holding it at a right angle. We're almost there, so now you need to release these light grey clips on either side of his forearm, which will free up the cannon to rotate to the end of his arm, where you can clamp it in place using the light grey clips and this single clip on the top. This is obviously an homage to the vintage robot base, which had the same style of cannon you could clip into the end of the arm. Personally, I feel like it's a cool mechanic, but I'm never going to pose him like this. Also the whole arm rotation bit, again cool, but once you do it once, you realize you can just manually do it in a fraction of the time without spinning the whole arm around. In robot mode, you can also open the front bridge area, and if you push the head back, you can open the whole bridge. To finish up, I want to show some comparisons with vintage robot base from 1980. Obviously the modern Diaclone designers use this as a starting point, and you can see at almost every point there's a modern interpretation. From the way the runway legs split to create the alt mode with ships ejecting from the feet, to the two play areas in the center of the toy. The giant drill-like shoulder pauldrons, even the design of the Freezon mega missiles are clearly referencing the projectiles from vintage robot base. Perhaps my favourite though is the elevator at the back, interpreted as the bridge elevator on ground Dion. This is such an incredibly fitting upgrade to a fantastic toy, paying respect to those early days of Takara while not failing to check every box a modern collector could ask for. I did say in my Battle Convoy review that it was possibly toy of the decade, and I didn't leave myself much room to move there. But at the time, no one anticipated such an ambitious project as this. Rather than backtrack and proclaim that Robot Base is superior, I'm just going to acknowledge the entire Diaclone line, of which Robot Base is clearly the flagship. It's hard to imagine that they could top this in terms of scale though. Something else I said in that review was that Takara would almost certainly re-release Battle Convoy in a repaint. I was pretty much wrong. They did release the V-Shadow Black version of the mech, but without the trailer. And so that's resulted in DA65 being resold at 3 times its original retail price, about the current price of a combined robot-based set. My point is that while it's not impossible that this will be re-released, it's unlikely based on the commercial history of the Diaclone line. Okay, so that's it. If you've watched my individual reviews of Ground Dion and Cloud Across before this, thanks so much for sticking through the whole thing. I've got one last video in the robot-based Grand Cross series where I want to show you the additional sets that Takara Tomy released to build out Robot Base even further, so please stick around and check that out. Thanks again, and see you there.